Hello, everyone. So, about 2 weeks after my first X-Men movie review, I'm finally getting around to doing the second one. This is the one that pretty much everyone agrees is the best of at least the original trilogy of films, and I definitely agree with that. Haven't rewatched X-Men 3 yet, but I already know I don't like that movie, so yeah. Pretty much everything that was good about the first movie is amplified here, plus more. Well, mostly anyway. We'll get into that in a minute. So the story is loosely based on the comic God Loves, Man Kills, and I mean loosely. There's some ideas that it pulls from that story. You got William Stryker as the main villain. The X-Men have to team up with Magneto, and Professor Xavier gets tricked into using a false Cerebro to try to kill all mutants on the planet. Now, William Stryker is a pretty different character here than he was in the comic. In that, he was a televangelist who believed that mutants were the spawn of Satan. And here, he was behind the Weapon X program. I actually think that was a pretty smart change to his character because it ties the main plot of the film with Wolverine's character arc, which was started in the first film. So by the end of the main plot, Wolverine's story arc ends as well. Side note, my dog's in the room with me and he's currently grooming himself. I don't know if the microphone is going to pick that up, but if you hear it in the background, that's what's going on there. Anyway, Wolverine, once again, is one of the big highlights of the movie. Like I said in my last review, I think Hugh Jackman always gave a great performance as the character. Now, it is kind of annoying that as the films go on, you have these movies, they're based on the X-Men, which is a team of a lot of, wonderful characters, and they keep focusing on one character and putting him in the spotlight in particular. That is very much a flaw of these movies, but at least they did a really good job with that one character they kept putting in the spotlight. I really like how his story unfolds and concludes in this movie, as he starts to learn more about his past and actually goes to the Weapon X facility and starts having little flashbacks. And I like that at the end, he chooses to let go of his past and move forward with the X-Men, as he rips his dog tags off and throws them at Stryker, saying, "I'll take my chances with them." And that's exactly the reason why he shouldn't have been the main character of the third movie again, and why X-Men Origins did not need to be made. We'll get to those later, though. Anyway, Wolverine gets some really good action scenes in this. You got the attack on the mansion early on where you get to see some of the Berserker rage, and then near the end when he has his fight with Deathstrike, that was a really well done fight. I also love when they're about to fight and she extends her claws and Wolverine simply responds with, "Holy shit." I love the delivery of that line. So, a new character that we're introduced to in this movie is Nightcrawler, and unfortunately this is the only film he's in until X-Men Apocalypse. They did a pretty good job with him here. We're introduced to him in the first scene where he's being mind-controlled by Stryker and he attacks the White House, and that was a fun action sequence and a good showcase of his abilities, though he doesn't really get to fight anyone after that. His character is expanded on a bit in this. They touch on him being Catholic and a little bit of his origin in the circus, and I thought that was very nice. Unfortunately, they couldn't do the same for a certain other character that's been here since the first movie, and that would be Cyclops. I said in my review of the first film that I think that one did the best job with him out of all the movies, because he got a decent amount of screen time, a little bit of character development, and actually got to lead the team at the end. In this one, he's just kind of there, and he's not really even there for much of the movie. He gets maybe 3 or 4 minutes of screen time early on. One action scene to himself, which was nice, but he gets knocked out by the end of it. He's missing from the middle chunk of the movie. He comes back in near the end, mind-controlled, gets freed from the mind control, doesn't really do much of anything, and then cries about Jean at the end. That's pretty much it. Nothing is done to further his character. They really didn't seem to know what to do with him in this movie. Now, they were pulling inspiration from God Loves, Man Kills, and a similar thing does happen to him there. He does get taken out early on in the story, is missing from the middle portion, and then doesn't come back till near the end. But in that story, when he does come back, he really gets to shine. I use the ending of God Loves, Man Kills as an example of why Cyclops is a better character than he's given credit for. I mean, they could have done something to expand on his character in some way. Give him, a time to lead the team. Like when he comes back at the end, like have him, take charge and come up with a battle plan and how they're going to get out of Stryker's base. Something like that. Instead of just having him just be there. All I could say is it's at least not as insulting as what they do to him in the next movie, but we'll get to that later. Jean is, I think, done better in this movie than the first one. I thought she was just alright in the first one. I like that she is developed a bit more as a character here. We start to get a little bit of setup for the Phoenix Saga, and I did like that setup. How she would lose control of her powers at certain times, and you would see the red aura going around her. I think her sacrifice near the end was a nice callback to how she became the Phoenix in the comics. And it's all very well done setup in this movie. It's just a shame that it doesn't really amount to much of anything in the next movie, aside from her standing around with a blank expression on her face, and then a couple scenes of her disintegrating people, but yeah, we'll get to that one later too. For this film, I like how they handled her character. Then we got Storm, who I think is about the same in this one as the last movie. She's alright. She's got a couple nice scenes with Nightcrawler. She gets one cool scene where they're in the X-Jet and they're being chased by these fighter jets, and she creates a bunch of tornadoes. I thought that was a pretty cool showcase of her powers, and that's about it. Professor Xavier and Magneto are well done in this movie as well. Like I said in the first review, I think that they are, along with Wolverine, the characters that these movies pretty much always did a really good job with. Magneto has one of my favorite scenes where he escapes from his prison. He rips the excessive iron out of one guard's blood, and then he turns them into these metal balls, and he uses them to smash up the prison, and then he turns one of them into a disc, and he floats away on it. I just really like that scene. I thought it was a good Magneto scene. Last three characters I'm going to talk about would be Rogue, Iceman, and Pyro. Iceman and Pyro were in the first movie, but they had such small roles, I just didn't mention them. I thought Iceman was alright. I liked Pyro, but I missed the Australian accent. I like how he starts out with the X-Men, and then Magneto persuades him over to his side. I thought that was pretty good stuff. That one scene in particular, where he talks to him on the jet, I thought that was really good. Then Rogue, I actually think is a little bit better here than in the first movie. It's still not the character of the comics, but I felt her performance was a bit better. It would be nice if, they could continue to improve upon her character and, make her better by the next movie. Oh yeah, they didn't. We'll get to that later. She does have one scene that I really like, though, where there's an interaction between her and Magneto, because in the first movie, he hooked her up to this machine that almost killed her, and that's what gave her the streak of white hair. And Magneto says, "We love what you've done with your hair." And then she pulls her glove off and starts moving towards him like she's about to absorb his life energy, but Iceman stops her. I thought that was a funny little bit. So yeah, X-Men 2. It's an improvement over the first movie. As I said in my first review, I'm very fond of these films because they were my introduction to the X-Men, and I did watch them a lot. And I do think that these first two films are good, but as a fan of the X-Men comics, there's some things that I do really like, and then there's some things that I think are pretty disappointing. All in all, though, I do think it's a pretty good film, and I did enjoy it quite a bit. So that's all I've got to say. I'll hopefully have the next review up sooner than this one, though I'm not in that much of a hurry to watch the next movie. But until then, thank you for watching. I hope to see you next time, and you have a good day.